Good evening. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Village of Alsip committee meeting. Today is June 11th, 2018. We'll call this meeting in order at 7:31. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Trustee McGreal?
Here.
Trustee Dalzell?
Here.
Trustee Pierce?
Here.
Trustee Zielinski?
Here.
Trustee Juarez?
Here.
Trustee McLaughlin?
Here.
Mayor Ryan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thanks. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, officers' report starting with myself. A couple of quick notes to the board and to the community. I want to remind everybody this coming Saturday, June 16th, with the Alsip, we're going to have the Alsip All Village Cleanup Day. Please, if you're available this weekend from 8:30 in the morning till 11:30, we're asking for everyone's help. We have the Public Works will identify designated areas that we can concentrate on cleanup. And we will have, if you need vests for any reason, we'll have vests available, gloves, garbage bags, and whatnot. And my administrative assistant, Becky said, actually, White Castle said they're throwing some whiteys for afterward. That'd be great. Okay, so 8:30 to 11:30. Please share that with your neighbors. And obviously, we really appreciate your help if you're available. We want to keep the community looking great, and there's a few areas, especially we tried to hit this about a month ago, and because of bad weather, we had to cancel. So hopefully everything holds out for this weekend. It's supposed to be hot, and maybe just a chance of rain. So we'll see what happens. Also, trustees, I'll give everybody some pictures that'll kind of help verify and identify. Back in like 2000, Roger, was it 2012 when we had the contract for the washers and dryers at Heritage Apartments? 2012. Okay. So 2012, we initiated a new contract with Harry Miller, or Coinomatic, let's put it that way, where we've got washers and dryers at the Heritage Apartments that the village owns, the coin-operated equipment, and we had some washers and dryers that were only maybe, less than 6 months old prior to that?
6 months old.
The problem is that they're commercial equipment, so they're really not great for residential applications because they got the coin machines hooked up to them and so forth. But the dryers are stackable dryers, and if you can use one, I'm sure there's a way to trick that machine, But we've got maybe 8 stackable dryers, right? And 8 washing machines. The washing machines are just typical top-load washers. And again, the coin aspect of it can be fixed. As far as cost, and again, these have been sitting for 6 years now.
We paid roughly about $2,000 per set when we purchased them back in 2012. So if we can get something for them, we can throw them away. If we can get one and grab them, a little guidance or discussion on what you guys would like to see done with these. Right now, they're just taking up room in the garage.
Okay, so unfortunately, Mr. Early wasn't on the microphone. For those at home, this is always recorded. You can always go on YouTube to watch this again. We paid close to $2,000 for the combination. So a double-stacked dryer and a wash machine would have cost around $2,000?
Correct.
Okay, so trustees, we can certainly put a fair nominal number on there. If somebody wants to make a suggestion, we can do so. We can recoup some of these monies. And certainly make them available for sale. I did speak. Go ahead, Trustee. Were you?
These are new?
No, they've been sitting for 5-6 years now.
No, I'm just saying is they were never used.
No, they've been slightly used.
They were used for roughly anywhere from 1 month to 6 months.
Okay, all right.
At the time when we switched over to a lease program with our current provider.
Okay.
We were purchasing at that time, and then we decided to go a different route and lease. So those we kept because they were fairly new, 1 to 6 months old.
I mean, I don't understand why we didn't, throw them to the firehouse or throw them here for housekeeping, PW.
Do we have a use for them right now, Roger, in-house anywhere at this time?
We would have to do some fitting for here for housekeeping. I believe the Fire stations are already out there with them, unless they want some extra ones. I'm more than happy to, anybody wants them within departments, we can get them over there, we can, make it happen, but we're just looking for space in the garage.
We have these in the storage garage right now out in the parking lot. So these have been protected. There's no rust, there's no element or anything like that involved with these. And I was at a meeting within the last couple of weeks with Mayor Vargas over in Blue Island, and he expressed an interest in these as well, too. So if we can find a use, as the trustee suggested, let's see if there's any way we do have a need. If not, trustees, please get back with me, or I'll be staying in touch with you. I just brought it for discussion tonight. Let's come up with a number and what we think is fair, and see if we can offload these machines. We're not obviously not using them right now, and certainly in the interest of the taxpayer, let's try and save a few bucks, because we do have a lease agreement with the current equipment that's being used. So we couldn't use this equipment was the problem. Okay. I have something else under new business later then too. Also then under my report, what I had on under number 1 was a discussion regarding the approval of an adjustment to the Illinois telecommunication tax. Trustees, I sent everybody something you have in your packets that was sent online. Just a quick overview. What I had sent everybody was the recent tax levy that was approved back in December. Didn't provide any monies toward operations. This was strictly just to make our minimal payment toward retirement and pension funding required annually to make to oversee our obligation. Just a couple of weeks ago, the state of Illinois passed their recent budget, and they actually took 5% of our LGDF. That's also known as our local government distribution fund. That actually equated to about $125,000 that the state of Illinois will not be sending our way next year. These significant reductions to our village mandate that the village review and address any revenues or fees paid to the village. Currently, the village telecommunication fees are not consistent with many of the nearby communities. The total communication fees paid by the state of Illinois in the village of Alsip, right now these fees stand at 10%, which consists of 7% to the state, 3% to the village. Most municipalities have a local municipal telecommunication fee of almost 6%, which is the maximum allowed under state statute. This results in a total communication tax of 13%, which is applicable. And I gave everyone a something that was produced by the state of Illinois. This results in a total. It's applicable in towns nearby, such as Evergreen Park, Oak Lawn, Burbank, Hickory Hills, and other local municipalities. They're all at 13%. Based upon being consistent with neighboring municipalities, I would ask the board to consider adjusting that fee to 13%, and again, 7% is going to the state of Illinois, 6% would be to the village of Alsip. I had the finance department double check as far as revenue to the village is concerned to take this action, and it's approximately, Kent, you said like $68,000 per quarter?
Yeah, it's $275,000 is the
annually
would be the annual increase.
Okay.
But having said that, telecom taxes are not based on your cell phone; they're based on your landline, and so that number, the telecom tax we've been getting, has been declining slowly for a decade.
More people are using cell phones.
Less landlines.
But based on what's in operation right now, it would be
$275,000 right now.
Right. And again, please consider, we just lost half of that money to the state of Illinois just in the last couple of weeks. So
$275,000 in total, or $275,000 in addition?
It's currently projected in the budget at being $275,000, and we get 3%. If you increased it to it'd be 6%, it'd be another $275,000.
So it'd be in addition to what we get right now.
2 year in the FY15, which I happen to have open right now because I'm working on, it was $345,000. So it gives you an idea from $345 to $275 in just 4 years.
And certainly,
decreasing.
this is not a new tax or fee or anything like this. It's just an adjustment to be in alignment with the other communities nearby. And as such, that's why we're bringing this to the table for the board to consider this action. Especially, like I said, when we're looking at things when we're having money taken away from us for no given reason, we have to look at ways to replenish that. Some way to recover from that, too. So this is one thing we have to look at, and as the finance director just said, that this is based on landlines, not cell phones. Is that correct then, Kent? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why it's been decreasing every year a little bit for the last decade, and we'll continue to do so probably.
Right.
What do we do with that money?
It's just general fund money.
My only concern with that is that I don't have landline anymore. I mean, I finally jumped on that wagon and got rid of it. But my mother does. My grandmother does. My mother-in-law does. I think that increasing this tax isn't, is not preying on senior citizens, but senior citizens are the ones that are most likely to have landlines. I mean, I think that we maybe should, get used to the fact that this money's decreasing and might ultimately one day be gone. Yet we're kind of going after, we're looking at an increase on really the more vulnerable people that actually still have landlines.
I'm a finance guy. I like money coming in to help balance the budget, but I'm not.
I get it. I get it, but I mean, it's something that we know. I mean, landlines are a thing of the past. I mean, I just had a conversation, with Deputy Chief Ricker about, all of the obsolete phone lines just within the village. I mean, and it's because of the fact that cell phones, are here. And wireless communications are the thing. So, if you're depending on a landline telecommunications tax, you're hitting the people that have them.
But,
I don't have one anymore, so somebody else is absorbing my share of that tax.
Yeah, I have one. I will say it's 3% of what your telephone bill is, which is not, the telephone bill isn't your largest bill, and it's at 3%. But you are right; it may skew more. But I don't think it's necessarily, like, as I said, I have one, still have a landline, and
No one's subsidizing what you would have used, and that's why he's saying this cost is actually coming down. Also consider last year, the state of Illinois took 10% of our LGDF last season, didn't they?
10% last year, and they're going to take 5% this year.
Exactly. And what's to say they're not going to do 10% again next year?
I hear you.
All I'm saying is, I'm not going to debate it. I'm just saying that when we lost $250,000 possibly, or $200,000 last year, another $100,000 this year, while we're losing the money, what do we do to offset those costs?
I think we just have to budget forward. We have to know that this is going to keep decreasing, and I don't know. Maybe the tax is the best way to do it. I'm just saying that if it was $375,000 in 2015 and it's decreased to $275, I mean it's on a slope. That slope's not turning back the other direction. So what are we doing thinking forward? If it's going in the general operations fund, I mean, we have to think forward and think that in 2022, I'll just throw that number out, it's going to be gone.
Well, I think the whole board would agree that was pretty painful doing a tax levy back in December, yet not $1 went to operations. To think that we can afford to keep taking $100,000, $200,000 hits every year and not put $1 toward operations is significant. And that's the reason I'm bringing this to the table for consideration. You can't live like this, and the number one thing I want to stay away from is everybody's property tax. Find a way to make it do, and for some folks that still utilize those tools, it's just the cost of doing business sometimes. I'm sorry, but that's how it is.
I mean, property taxes certainly are not fair in this state, but I mean, at least it's equally distributed. Landline tax is not.
Trustee, I've had many residents come in front of me here that they want sidewalks on their block. They want streetlights on their block. I don't have any of those where I live. I don't have a sidewalk. I don't have a streetlight. And much as we'd like to have it, I can't put additional pains on those taxpayers either. Yet I still pay into those street taxes for everybody every year. That kind of thing. You got it's part of being a group. It's what we do. So.
Are we exempt from that paying those taxes?
We're exempt from almost all taxes except some with regards to health care from the ACA.
I'm not saying I'm completely against it. I'm just saying that
Oh, no, I'm
we're
just
going to
making
get
a
a lot
healthy,
of
conversation, that's
backlash
all,
on this
you know?
one.
Yeah.
So
Anybody else?
He does point out, though, that most municipalities are at the 13% rate, which is 6%, but they have been for decades. It was, your point is well taken that, that money would have been bigger way back when, and it is a dwindling number.
Trustees, any other questions?
I mean, the hard part of the reality is what a tax is a tax is a tax. So whether it's property tax or whether it's a utility tax or telecommunications tax, people still reach in their pocket to pay it. But again, I'm actually surprised at that number that's involved for a 3%. And if we're looking to offset the LDGF, we can do that at 1/3 of what this is.
My thing is, when right now, we're next week, and it's a priority for our office this week. Next month, we're going to be passing our budget, and we all understand last year was a real bad time for everybody passing a deficit budget. We didn't overspend, but that's how bad budgets are, and you have to think forward. You can't just wait and see how much we're going to have to do this. I'm trying to be a little proactive about this and just trying to find, it might be low-hanging fruit in some cases, but we've got to try and identify with a few of these things that can help our community and we're all taxpayers before we're representatives. So let's do what we can to try and keep the pressure off our back as far as that's concerned when it comes to property taxes. So anyways, for consideration, certainly if anybody has any questions, please give my office a call this week. I'm happy to talk to you about and stuff and too. Okay?
So will that be on the agenda for next week then?
This, you know what? I'll put it out there next week. Unless anybody has a real problem with it, I can put it out there for a vote next week, and we'll see if anybody's interested in approving this. Sure.
I'd like to see the numbers. The percentages are already presented, but I'd like to see really what those numbers are represented.
The last few years of what we've received from that 3%? Yeah, I'd be happy to give that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's not the top, but we'll make it. Get that to everybody. Sure. That's all I have for this evening. Next is the clerk report. Clerk Pretzel.
Thank you. First on the line is the presentation for the May FOIA report. I'm sorry I didn't bring copies with me. I will drop them in your mailboxes this evening. Next is presentation of the IDOT motor fuel tax allotment for May 2018 in the amount of $40,627.09. And then we also have the presentation and approval for the May 29th, 2018 committee meeting minutes. And then just informationally, Becky Smith, the assistant to the mayor, and Roger sent an email earlier that she had received a phone call from an attorney who wanted to call and compliment the ladies in the clerk's office, specifically Tiffany and Elisa, for the customer service that she had received when dealing with doing transfer stamps, as well as the residents who had come in to pay their final bills also complimented the ladies. So I just wanted to give props to them. This is a busy time of year, so it's very nice to get a kudos. And that is all, Mayor.
Very good. Thanks. Folks, we've reached the portion of our meeting known as public forum. Would anyone in the audience wish to address the board on anything this evening? Sure, come on up. We just ask that you state your name. Please sign in so we know who spoke to us tonight.
Hello.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Edith Schmidt, and I live at 4408 Jean Street. I actually have something prepared because my other half is known as the louder one in the family. I'm the quieter one, so if it's okay that I read something?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I'm here tonight on behalf of the residents of Jean Street and Joe Ellis Drive. I have a petition attached here with over 70 signatures, and we're asking the village to address the traffic and the speed issue in our neighborhoods. I've lived on Jean Street for over 33 years, and this is not a new issue. It's not a new problem at all. Myself and others have asked the police department to monitor the speeding several times over the 33 years. And I know for a fact that twice traffic studies were done and results showed that we had a normal traffic pattern for a secondary street. I think we know that there is no way to prevent the number of vehicles driving on Jean and Joalis, but we hope there's a way to prevent the speeding. The past 2 years, we've had 3 rollover accidents. The first was on Joalis. The second was a year ago, June 2nd, on Jean Street. And the third one was just this past Mother's Day morning at 10 a.m. And I think that accident is what brings me here tonight, because that vehicle that was involved was a gentleman driving an SUV, and there were 2 car seats in the back. Thank God there were no kids in there. He walked away, but it could have been a different outcome. Sorry. We hope the village will look at some kind of solution for us. We know that the options of additional stop signs, speed bumps would of course be frowned upon, probably by ourselves. I mean, it would impact us more than anyone. However, with the increased use of technology, we see red light cameras all over. We know that there are speeding cameras. Maybe this is something the village could look at. I know our streets are not special in comparison to others in the village, but I think that we can all agree that our shortcut, Jean Joalis, is used far more than some others. In closing, I'd like to say that, we're very fortunate to live in the area we live in, especially our families and our kids. They walk to school, the parks, the ball fields, the pool, the library. And we just think that it's become a serious issue that the village needs to address.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Schmidt, for coming in.
Thank you.
Again, just in all fairness, we call this public forum. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to kind of prepare myself for that ahead of time.
No, that's...
But I appreciate you bringing your concerns in. A couple of quick things that I'm happy to address for you. Some of your ideas they're good ideas. I will tell everybody, last year I had a meeting with our state senator, Emil Jones III, and unfortunately in the suburban area, they are not going to, and Chief, you can probably confirm this too, they're not going to let any of the suburbs have speed cameras. In the city of Chicago, they're utilizing them in some of the school zones, but in the suburbs, they're just not going to let it happen. The state has decided that for everybody else, that you're not going to get that. So, but it's a great idea. I know what you mean. I think that'd be a great suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
I did, just in the last few months, I did order temporary speed bumps that the chief deployed last year when they had the closure of Cicero Avenue, where all the traffic had to be rerouted for a few months because they were fixing Cicero. We did put those out on 131st Street, like heading from Cicero, let's say eastbound toward like the flea market. And they were. Did they help you, Chief, with that?
They helped. The complaints went down tremendously when
Okay.
we utilized those.
And I ordered more. So we got brand new ones, Mike. They were just delivered. Okay. I just ordered, and we did this right at the beginning of the season. It took a few, I don't know, probably took a month for them to get here, but we do have some. But certainly when it comes to public safety, as much as we all want to weigh in on all that, and we do, we decide, the trustees decide policy and so forth.
Yes.
When it comes to public safety, we defer to the police department for their expert opinion on that kind of thing then too. You want to speak to it, Chief, right now, or do you need time to get back to her or anything?
No, my staff is available to the public as much as anybody's hasn't been in the past through social media, through our website or whatever. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and email my command staff or myself to continue. We'll help the situation right away, starting tomorrow, and just let us know how it's progressing as time goes on. Because obviously we haven't had much feedback since last summer, and obviously the problems have not quelled enough.
No, they haven't. And I thank you, and I think you're probably the only chief in 30 years that I haven't spoken to. because we've had conversations the past 30 years, and we still sit with our speeding. And ironically, I have a picture of the last rollover crash, and the sign right in front of it is slow children playing. So obviously, the signage doesn't do any good.
No, for what it's worth, I mean, I was just telling the chief a couple weeks ago, we had kind of a bad night, and I actually live right behind the Home Depot on Cicero and on Laverne Street. And again, here you are, I'm out there walking the dog at night, and again, we've got no street lights. We've got one in each corner, and there's a guy speeding down the street, and it's raining. I can't even catch the license plate number. So, unfortunately, we all of us experience similar situations in our neighborhoods, and our job is here to help you too, because you don't live on my block, so I really couldn't share it with you. But I appreciate you sharing with me what your experience.
Right,
is
and like I said, I know. I mean, we're not the only ones that have speeders, but I think the fact that our shortcut is used by so many people. They need to get to Oak Lawn very quickly, and they're using that way to get there. And it just, I think and I will touch base with the police chief, and maybe we can come to some solutions or something.
Yeah, certainly, we'll set something up. We'll meet as soon as we're done here, and we'll set up a meeting and stuff like that with my staff.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You know what, Ms. Schmidt? Yeah, Chief, if after we get through some of his reports that's coming up here and so forth, if you want to talk to her out in the hall or something, set something up, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, folks, for coming in, too. And certainly, our office, as the chief just said, we're here to listen to you. I mean, I tell you, every email I send out, it's got my personal phone number attached to it all the time, too. So don't be afraid to call us. We're happy to help. And again, whether you get me or my assistant, we answer the phone here all the time. I get people kind of teasing me all the time, like, this the mayor? I'm like, of course, I answer the phone here, so please let us know if you need anything, and we're happy to try and help you if we can. As the chief said, we deployed a traffic car out on your neighborhood last year, and I think within 2 weeks, we probably got 75 people that they had Chief, you gave a lot of warnings, too, but you did, how many tickets went out?
We gave a lot of warnings because they were mostly people from the neighborhood.
Okay.
It was, out of 100.
Yeah. I mean, we are trying to be fair. I mean, we're not just dropping the hammer on everybody here and stuff. But I totally share your concerns because I know what you mean. That is a main street going through town. The idea, technically they always say curved streets are what they call calming streets. It's supposed to slow traffic, and certainly nobody gets that idea. That's the idea of a curved street, is to slow the traffic down and stuff all the time, too. So
Trustee McLaughlin just drew me this great Google map of the area. It seemed so it seems to be in close proximity to church and junior high. Is the situation worse during school and church time? No? Okay.
We probably notice it more during the summer, of course, because we're outside, but it's 365 days a year. There's no time of the year that it's less or more.
Okay, so, yeah, the chief will make the best call on what's the best course of action to take. But again, if you do decide to do that, I ordered brand new. I have multi-staff meetings with the departments. We talked about this about 2 months ago, and Public Works got those for us right away. So let's see what we can do with it then too. Okay. Thanks, folks. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Standing committee reports. Finance Committee, Trustee McLaughlin.
I will have the usual list of accounts payable and payroll for approval next week. Also, I missed getting it on the agenda for this week, but it's time to renew the OPEB actuarial contract. So I'll have that on the agenda next week for approval. This is renewal with our current actuary who's been doing our pension deficit projections for the last couple of years. The contract that the finance director is recommending is a 4-year extension at a grand total of $9,485, and that's for all 4 years, not per year.
Do you trust his work, Kent?
I do. They're moving the accounting standards now means that they have more work to do. They're going to do what was done with the pensions, which is finally make liabilities make sense. So they want to lag. When they redid that, they moved it from a 3-year to a 2-year. So you do a full report now every 2 years. In the off year, you get a pretty cheap deal because they kind of just update the numbers. So we're doing it more often, and they have more work to do. But yes, they're very capable of doing the work.
Okay.
They do a good job. And they do it also, they're also, for both pension plans, the police pension plan and the fire pension plan, both have selected that with the village. They each share half. So they're the same company that the pension plans and the village uses for the pension plans as well.
Okay.
And then, Kent, what is the tentative schedule in terms of budgets?
I got the revenues out to everyone on Friday, and as you correctly point out, revenues without knowing where we are on the expenses isn't everywhere. I'm going to try to get that. I worked on that all day today. I don't have an intern to type this stuff in, so I'm chugging away. But I'm going to try to get that out probably by Wednesday to have a really good analysis so you can see where we're at. I'm going to be meeting with all the department directors this week. My guess is Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to be finishing this up. I may meet with a few during that time, but it's probably after that once I get a good idea of exactly where we're at and just trying to whittle it down before it comes back to you. But either by the end of this week or early next week, I think we should have another budget hearing and see where we're, report back to the board and give an idea of where we're at. We'll try to sharpen our pencils internally first, but it's time to get back to it.
Well, I think it's important to complete your meetings with the department heads first and give them first crack at cutting their budgets before we have to come in and do it for them.
I agree.
But,
and frequently, the way it's been done in the past is we had initial meetings, which I've had with all the department directors. We have a second round, which we do. Then sometimes there's a third round where it's the department head, myself, and our mutual boss, the mayor, to try to get it even further. So that's up to the mayor as to what level we do before we come back to the board. But it's getting to the point where we need to get back to it and get this thing passed. So.
I mean, do we want to look at potentially having a committee of the whole meeting on the 20th? Which would be next week, Wednesday. That'd give you enough time to meet with the department heads and update whatever figures need updated, or do you need more time than that?
I'd prefer the 21st, but I prefer the 21st or any day after that. The 20th, I have a conflict.
Okay. Does anybody have any issues then if we schedule a special meeting for the 21st?
Trustee, what's the day on that?
That's a Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay.
At what time?
6:30. Because we know the finance director likes to talk, and so we'll be here for a while.
All right, why don't you post that with the clerk's office then, 6:30?
On the
6:30 on the
21st.
21st.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Trustee?
That is all I have under finance.
Okay, how about the fire report, Trustee McGlowan?
Under fire, the chief would like to give us an update on the next new hires.
Okay. Thank you, trustees and mayor. We have one firefighter who is retiring on June 30th, which is only a short 2 weeks away. And we have one lieutenant who is retiring on July 9th. The second lieutenant has postponed his retirement to a later date. At this time, I don't know what it is. We originally started processing 3 people as per our discussion about a month and a half or 2 months ago. We are currently just processing 2 people to replace them. So right now we are looking at starting them on days on the 25th of June. They'll be on days for 2 weeks, so they'll be on shift right at the time that the lieutenant will be leaving on retirement for 6 months. So we'll have about a lag of about a week and a half of overtime to cover the one firefighter. just like we did with the last two that retired, so we had that short lag time also. So the goal is trying to reduce our overtime as much as we can. I mean, there's other things that, people calling in sick and people off on injury, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but we're trying to minimize it just by with the guys going on retirement right now.
Okay, and then next, you have a discussion on purchasing EMS reporting software.
Right. We had our budget talks back in February, March. One of the things that we talk about in our budget is an EMS reporting system. We are required by the Illinois Department of Public Health to have a reporting system. It's called NEMSIS 3. And I'll let Deputy Chief Ricker talk a little bit more about that. He's more the software computer geek compared to what I can explain to it. We do have something budgeted this year. Unfortunately, it's not a low cost. We were using Firehouse Medic. Firehouse Medic is what we use when we go to the hospital. We do a patient care report, and the premises of Firehouse Medic at the time was to be NEMSIS compliant. Well, since then, the company that had Firehouse Medic has sold it to another company, which is ESO. And they were not going to support Firehouse Medic or make it NEMSIS compliant because they want us to use their system as well. So again, I'll let Deputy Chief Ricker explain that. Unfortunately, when this is one of the unfunded mandates we are required to do, it's not a choice to do, it's something that we have to do. Or there's a lot of things that can happen, including pulling our ambulance licenses, which we really don't want to do. The other issue with that is how long it takes to get a system in place. You're looking at close to about 90 days from the time you purchase it, because we also have to do test reports. We have to submit them to the state. The state has to give us feedback, and we go back and forth until we finally get an approval from the state to use this system. And I know, like I said, we have budget talks coming up again. It's just a proposal, and we look at a lot of different systems. I know Trustee Dozell and I kind of had a discussion a little bit about the last time we brought this up, and I don't have all the answers to the questions. That's why I brought Bob with me. So I'll turn it over to the trustees to ask Deputy Chief Ricker for any questions or where we want to go with this.
I can go right over here.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions right now?
So you have a software system right now that was either obsoleted or bought by somebody else that you're paying a license on, so you're just basically not
It's a small license fee we're currently using. We've pushed off the state. The state's given us a waiver, from last year to push things out. We told them we were in process of moving forward to get NEMSIS 3 compliancy. So
what is that acronym? Because
NEMSIS, it's like every other government agency. NEMSIS is the National EMS Information System. So it's the national reporting system that all agencies across the country report into. All right.
Statistical.
A lot of government granting on the EMS side is all comes from the data that is supplied to the NEMSIS system. So we all have to get compliant with it. Illinois has been NEMSIS 3 compliant for over a year. They're rolling it out slowly across agencies, and we're trying to make that move. One of the reasons we looked at going with the ESO solution, ESO currently owns our Firehouse system, which is our everyday reporting system that we use for all of our national fire reporting. By going with ESO, we have a single point for all of our support needs for the operation. So instead of going, there's several other software packages out there. You've got Image Trends, you've got Zoll. They're all pretty comparable in price. The issue comes into play when you start having data transfer issues. One points to the other one says it's their problem. With the ESO solution and our migration over to Oak Lawn, it is a complete package for us. So we go to one place for all of our support, our services, our integration. It's all there. So this is the main reason we went with them.
And it's also a cloud-based system, so we don't have to...
Yeah, we don't support the servers on our end. It's all hosted on their end. It cuts down on support time that I have to put into it, and we don't have to buy servers, and we don't have to buy any of the supporting hardware. we're ready to go. We have all of the hardware we need for the field. It's just a matter of moving forward with the licensing and getting the package out there. And it's going to take some time. Like the chief said, it's about a 90-day deployment. They come on site, do the on-site training. We have to supply about 120 test reports to the state of Illinois before we get approval to use the system. So there's quite a bit of work on our end that we have to accomplish.
Deputy Chief, I'm sorry, I was making some notes here, too. Did you have a cost associated with this yet, too?
Yeah, so the first year cost on this is, and that's because of the travel and the training, you're looking at $15,400. Our annual recurring after that would be approximately $10,500, if I remember correctly. 11,000, I'm sorry. 11,000 annually.
Okay. So it's 11,000 annually
After the first year, yeah.
Right, okay.
And how much are we currently spending on the firehouse medic, just out of curiosity?
It's, if I remember right, it's about $2,500 that we pay on that now.
So this is substantial. Yeah.
It is significant, and unfortunately, when you look at any of these packages, I looked into Image Trend. I talked with several other agencies. They're paying on the order of $8,500 to $9,000. Plus, we would have to pay additional for integration into Firehouse. So you're right at the same point in price. They're all real close when you look at them.
Plus, some of them, they have their own serving systems. Now you're paying for that hardware. Ours will be cloud-based like the Firehouse Medic.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we went with Firehouse Medic, is for the cloud.
And again, just backing up a little bit, with regard to NEAMS, are they recommending any service, or we can pick who we like?
Nemesis, no. We can pick whoever we want.
That's what I meant, right.
Here in Illinois, ESO actually holds about 30% of the market, followed closely by Image Trend, who's one of the other big players, and then Zoll, who's one of the larger. They're another one of the big players, but their market share is even smaller yet. But when you look at the two packages, the two big players, they both are pretty close in size in the state of Illinois. Oh, here it is. ESO does 29%, Image Trend does another 26%, Zoll's about 14%, and there's a half a dozen other ones, that are out there. I've never heard of them, actually.
Okay.
So.
Trustees, any other questions?
No.
No, right now. Chiefs, thanks. Obviously, this is something. Did everybody get a copy of what the chief just gave me with the numbers? Okay.
One of the other things we might want to look at, and I will get the numbers because I know a couple years ago we did change our ambulance fee ordinance, and as of January this year, it should have gone up 3%. So I will see where we're at with revenues from last year to this year. If it's something that we have to look at increasing it slightly. One of the things I said before is right now we're about the middle of the road. We're not the highest one out there for our ambulance fees. We're not the lowest one out there. So if it's something that we might have to adjust our ambulance fees to move forward with a system, whichever system, like I said, this is what we're recommending right now. That is also a viable option that we can come back to the table and say we need to raise our fees because of this. So I will get the numbers of what we had last year and what we have this year so far with our increase of the fees. And it's something we might have to look at again also to help it. The biggest thing is like I said, time-wise. The state has given us a waiver. I don't want to really, especially the way the state works, I don't want to push that envelope too much. So it's something that we can move forward with in the very near future. I know we're looking at budget talks, but we might be about a month and a half away by the time we get anything in place. And that 6 weeks is going to go on top of another 3 months. So I don't know if any of the trustees suggest anything right now to move forward and try to get something in place. I don't know if any of you have any suggestions right now or any ideas you want to talk about. Okay, I will get you the numbers.
Yeah,
also.
digest that a little bit. Yeah, thanks. Obviously, it's a significantly, as you said, Chiefs, increase. You're going from 2,500 to 15,000 with 11,000 annually.
Yep.
So, no, that's significant, and it's certainly something. Again, like I brought up earlier, the cost of operations are increasing, so I'm trying to find ways to offset those numbers and stuff then too. And even with you, I appreciate what you're suggesting, but we just adjusted that ambulance fee not even a year ago and stuff, right?
We adjusted it about 2 years ago.
Was it? Yeah.
And like I said, we try to be about the middle of the road. We rely on insurance. Not everybody has insurance. If anybody has a hardship, we do look at that. We do waive fees from time to time. But again, this is an unfunded mandate that it's part of our service that we provide for EMS. So if there's no other way to fund that, I mean, that's going to be really your only option at this point. It's the cost of doing business, and we got to pass it on to somebody, and it should be passed on to the users that are actually using the system.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Chief? Thanks much.
No problem.
I do have one more thing, and I brought to the mayor earlier. May last month, they had a celebration from the Illinois Fire Sprinkler Coalition. We did receive a plaque. It says the Village of Alsip, has the mayor's name, all the trustees, as well as my name and my fire prevention officers. And it states, for the following FEMA's America's Burning Report Guidelines for the Protection of Citizens and FEMA's Firefighters Life Safety Summit recommendations for the protection of firefighters by adopting and preserving progressive residential sprinkler codes for single-family homes following NFPA 13D standards. So that's something that was put back into place, I believe, 2006. So we're very progressive with our fire sprinkler system for residential in our town, and I believe we have about 17 or 18. Joe, is Joe still back there? That sound right, Joe? About 17 or 18 homes? Right now that do have sprinkler systems in place also. So.
Okay. Very good. Congratulations, Chief. Anything else, Trustee?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Police report, Trustee McGreal.
We have a discussion of tow fees that'll be presented by Chief Miller.
I sent my committee I was going over some tow contracts that some other towns have, and I came across something that was kind of interesting that some other towns are using. They charge a $50 service fee for every tow in the village. Currently, we're charging just for most arrest offenses. Their $50 fee includes mainly traffic accident. When people get their vehicles towed, they pay a $50 fee to get their vehicle out of the impound. That fee, I think, would be good in regards to traffic accidents. We spend a lot of time, especially when there's tows involved, and we don't really recoup anything out of those. So my point was just to bring that to your attention. If it was something you're interested in, I could send you the whole contract to the whole board. I currently just sent it to my committee. If you want to look at it, I can send it out to you tomorrow. I was just looking for some feedback on that, if that was something you were interested in.
So how many tows a year do you do? I mean, for accidents? I mean, I know.
Well, the flip side to that is they have the service fee is for all vehicle tows. So you could be the person who was not the offender in the accident, and you're still going to get charged. I don't think you should slice it. It should be a flat fee across for every tow, because otherwise it just becomes complicated when you're charging one guy and not the other guy and that kind of thing. So we average about...
You can't just say bill him?
No. We average, I can double check the numbers in the morning, but we're about 100 and some tows a year.
Do we coordinate the tow?
I'm sorry?
Do we coordinate that tow, or do the people call a tow truck on their own?
No, when it's a traffic accident involved in the middle of the roadway, we call and get our own tow. We use B&R Towing and Walsh Towing currently. So
we don't charge anything right now?
No, we don't.
And where would this money go to?
General fund.
It's up to Kent.
The police operations are in the general fund, so.
Man, it's just a tax night, I guess.
But you'll get us some information to look at.
Yeah, I can send it out tomorrow to everybody. I sent it to just the committee, but it's basically just the language in there as to how they collect the fee and where it gets collected at. They collect their fees at the tow yard, so the tow yard charges the tow fee and then the village service fee, and they pay the village back every month, the monies that they collect. So this way the person's not paying 2 or 3 different places. It's all done at one location, and then the village gets recoup the money at the end of the month. I'll send that out tomorrow, and then if anybody has any questions, just let me know.
So we're about, if I can just piggyback on that, we're about a year into this whole thing with the booting thing, you know, on Pulaski. I mean, has that cleaned itself out with this tow company that was...
Oh yeah, we haven't had any more issues with them. Once they had to comply with all the guidelines in the ordinance, they no longer exist.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
System works.
That's all that I have.
That's it? Okay. All right, thank you. Moving along, the Public Work and Boat Launch Committee, Trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of the May 2018 monthly activity report, and Mike has some information on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring the attention to Mayor and trustees recently, especially with the wet weather we've been receiving and the hot temperatures. I know one of the concerns that always comes up, of course, is mosquito season. Cook County Mosquito Abatement has been in town last week and today also. They have been treating standing water throughout town as well as catch basins to help control the mosquito larvae throughout town. They'll probably be in town for the next couple of days. So there's been no reports or identification of West Nile here in Alsip at this time. They're usually pretty good with the testing and letting us know if that should change. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Also with this weather, it's nice. MWRD has been assisting Public Works with the cleaning and alleviating some backed up issues along Stony Creek throughout town as well. So crews from Public Works have been busy also with the grass cutting and mowing, of course, several properties and village right-of-ways. So we're doing our best to keep the water flowing and control the mosquitoes for this summer. So just wanted to, again, let you guys know that that stuff is being taken care of. And also that I did receive a call from Illinois Contractor. They were the contractors that were doing work on the bridge of Cicero. During the winter, there was some damage done to the boat launch docks. They have approved the contractor, Decker Brothers Construction out of Blue Island, to make those repairs. They're hoping to get in there at the end of this week or sometime next week to make those repairs, and they would expect that to be done within a week.
Okay.
So, and that's all I got. Okay. Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you. The Building Committee, Trustee Zelinski.
The Alsip Park District Fun Fest with fireworks is to be held June 16th, 2018. Also, the village's Sportsman's Club is hosting a benefit for Aubrey Lucia on July 28th, 2018. And the New Zion Ministries Festival is to be held July 21st, 2018. That's all I have under building.
Trustees, just so you know, too, right before the meeting started, I did speak with our building commissioner, Roger Early, and we are getting closer to finally getting our permits from the county to demolish the old car wash on Pulaski, rather. So that should happen.
I'm going to sit down and try to hammer it out tomorrow. And get
Okay.
it squared away.
And tomorrow we're going to finalize a contractor as well to remove, unfortunately, there was a house over on 120th Place that's been abandoned for a number of years. We do have the rights to tear the house down. It did have some asbestos issues in there, but unfortunately the gentleman who used to live there was somewhat of a hoarder, and we have to clear all the debris out just to get at the flooring that needs to come out. So unfortunately, I've just had layers of stuff we've been working at, but we did identify a couple of affordable contractors. We did get 3 prices, and we're going to review those in the morning, get somebody in there, because we want to have the house taken down. That's an eyesore, and it's a health hazard, too, on 120th Place near Hamlin Street.
You're going to tear the whole house down?
House, it's got a built-in pool and everything, yeah. Everything's coming down. Actually, we heard of, unfortunately, we heard of, like, animals, like dogs falling in the pool and not being able to get out of it and stuff then, too. So we did put up snow fencing to protect everything over there. We did that last year. And it just takes a while in courts. Unfortunately, fortunately, let's just put it this way, our legal representation right now did a great job of getting us rights to that house. Once we tear it down and clean it all up, it'll be somewhat pad ready, and we'll make it available for sale. We'll recoup all of our funding from that and so forth, and we'll move forward. We'll have somebody can build a great house over there and stuff then too. So, we're doing everything we can to help that neighborhood.
Mayor, do we have any updates on what's going on with the gas station on the east side?
Gas station, what happened with that, Raj, too? With
McKinsey Group is coming in tomorrow. I spoke with them today. They did take the tanks out. There is a leak there. They had to file with the state fire marshal. They are going to come in tomorrow, fill out the rest of their paperwork. There's some other things going on in the background that I really can't talk about. But hopefully you'll see a facade and new canopy going up in the very near future.
It was actually, unfortunately, folks, just so you know, too, there was a change in ownership going on. When that accident happened, when that canopy fell on Pulaski on that Sitco gas station, 50 right now. Yeah.
We're not doing a job of, manicuring lawns for people. So I see this as more of a deterrent. And if people actually just get out there and take care of their stuff the way they're supposed to,
and there are
none of these fees will even be incurred by anybody. So
there are some communities too, trustee, like Matson, for example. I heard they're as high as like $700. I'm like, we're not trying to hurt people. We're trying to help them, and we're trying to do what we can here. But there has to be a fee associated with it. That's all. So. And much like I was trying to do, I figured an hour, of course I was crazy to think I could do that in an hour. Those guys are out there for 3 hours with 3 guys with professional equipment. But I feel for everybody, and our phones are ringing off the hook here and stuff then too. So we're doing what we can to try and come up with a solution. So, yeah, unless I hear different this week from everybody, I'll put this out next week. I'll have legal take a look at this, make sure the language is correct and so forth, and I'll put it to the board for approval next week and stuff then too.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll finish up. We have a couple more items rather real quick. Trustee, anything else on ordinance legislation?
That's all, Mayor.
Thanks for your help on that. IT, Trustee Dalzell.
No report, Mayor.
Mayor, could I ask a question on IT?
Sure.
Especially because we have Deputy Chief Ricker here tonight. And if I could ask you to address the board here, I heard an obscene number this past week that maybe you can address that. I know we've got a 20-plus-year-old phone system, but I heard that we pay almost $11,000 a year in a contract fee just for maintenance on this system.
That is correct. After doing some research, I've been working with our finance department and our other department heads, trying to get through, all of our telecommunication services here in the village, and we are currently paying roughly $917 a month in maintenance for a 20-year-old phone system. It's been under contract for, since it was put in. As anybody knows, as things get older, they get more expensive to maintain, and that contract price has just kept going up. So I've been working with a number of companies, getting some quotes on new phone systems and such. But also we found during the course of all this auditing about an additional $3,000 a month in services that I was able to cancel that we'd been paying to AT&T for. AT&T and another company for stuff that probably should have been canceled years ago.
So $3,000 a year?
$3,000 a month.
So $36,000 a year.
Correct. So I've been working very closely with all the different department heads and kind of auditing everything that we've got there, getting rid of things that we know we don't need. We did this several years ago, but with this conversion over to Oaklawn, it opened up some additional accounts that we hadn't looked at very closely in the past, and we found some things that we could do. So just in the last month or so, I've sent disconnect orders into AT&T and another First Communications, totaling close to $3,000 a month in fees. So one of the things that we're looking at now is with the quoting on the phone systems, we could be looking at a new phone system for roughly what we're paying now in maintenance, and that includes 5 years of service. So I'm working on getting all that stuff together, and as I get closer, I will definitely reach out to our IT committee to get some solid numbers together. I'm just waiting on a few other things from AT&T right now on additional services and consolidation of things that we currently are using.
And we have all the infrastructure already in place to flip to something new and modern?
Well, that's what we're waiting on, some of that information right now. So,
And that'd be a hybrid system, correct?
No, this will be a fully IP system.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the cost savings that we looked at originally with the hybrid system, that's gone away, and the cost of the hybrid systems have gone up, and the price of the IP phone systems has come
So
down.
it's a VoIP system.
Yep.
Voice over Internet Protocol. If you recall, that was something that we talked about quite a bit in last year's budget when we were doing the 5-year budgeting, and it was for this year. We talked again when we went through the budget of it being in this year's budget. It's obviously the budget's not passed, nothing is there, but it was in the line items that were presented for this year's budget to do that project. And I will say it really is held together with tape. Today the display on my phone just went out, so a good portion of it, part of it's blocked out.
So
I
this
have a spare phone for you.
So this $47,000 in newfound money, it should pay for it easily, right?
It's and my number is old, so I think DC Ricker can help give a more updated number. But the number we budgeted for was $90,000.
Yeah, I've gotten quotes on new phone systems that ranged anywhere from about $49,000 all the way up to $150,000. So,
two-year payback.
Yeah, it's pretty wide ranging.
Two-year payback.
And of course, one insurance company is pointing his finger at the other guy. Well, I didn't take possession yet, that kind of thing. And that's what happened. So we got caught right in the switch. I mean, timing's everything in this world, and we learn perfectly from it, too. So they're coming in tomorrow?
I did talk to Scott today. He is coming in tomorrow.
Okay.
He's supposed to meet here between 10 and 10:30 tomorrow.
Sounds good. So we're doing what we can to put that back together as quickly as possible. Okay. Thank you. Trustee, anything else on building? No. Okay. Sewer and water, Trustee Dalzell.
The presentation of the May 2018 monthly activity report, and also a little bit of discussion with regards to the awarding of the grounds restoration contract to Davis Concrete Construction Company for a period of 18 months, and I'll let Dan explain.
All right, so we only received one bid last week for the restoration contract from Davis Concrete. And of course, prices are going up. Last year it went up about 30%. This year, these are unit prices for a variety of different restorations, whether it's concrete roadway, asphalt driveway, or even just seed and sod. But the increases range from 20 to 83% on each of these line items. Overall, if we had the same quantities of restoration work necessary this year, the contract is going to be a 50% increase.
Oh, wow.
So, in talking with some of the other vendors that did pick up the bid package, their biggest issue is there are a lot of smaller companies that they can't provide a performance bond. So it's one of those things, do we re-advertise without the performance bond requirement? And we have, for years, worked with other companies where we didn't require a performance bond. But it's just a matter of making sure the work gets done, and up to our standards.
Yeah, and in discussion with Dan, the performance bond in this instance, it really doesn't benefit us at all. So if it's going to preclude other entities from coming forth and giving us a bid for that work and possibly saving the monies for that, if the vendor doesn't successfully perform the work, they don't get paid for it. So we pay for the work done, not necessarily the work. And the other aspect of it is that there's, with the performance bond, there isn't really the ability for us to make use of it. So in this instance here, it just appears like it's going to be a a hindrance more so than something that we need to have.
I certainly would be in favor of going back out to have that bid again. I mean, a 50% increase on what we paid last season is just, it seems substantial.
That's currently the situation we could be in, yes.
And what he's talking about, too, ladies and gentlemen, is restoration after a water main break, whether it's asphalt, concrete, it could be landscaping. A 50% increase is substantial. And while we put it out to bid, last week only one company turned in a quote. So we're working with one bid. And like you said, Dan, with the performance bond, maybe smaller companies, these are smaller jobs. These are onesie twosies and stuff then too.
Exactly.
So.
The only downside is, without the performance bond is now you have a contract with, a company for a year, 18 months for this particular situation. But if they don't perform to standards, then, legally we have to, end that contract before we can get, the work to continue with a different vendor. And the issue there is, the customers, our residents and, businesses are the ones that suffer because the work isn't, performed.
Right.
And they've got a hole in their front yard.
Trustee Dalzella, as chair, what's your recommendation on this? What do you want to do?
I'd like to see us go out to bond or to bid and to find out exactly what the cost savings may be. If it's not that significant, then we stay with what we've done thus far. But if they're substantive, then I think we should try it and maybe even just come up with a list of vendors for that and rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, letting know you won the bid, you're going to do this thing until such time as you don't perform satisfactorily, and now we've got a list of vendors that we can go to rather than sole source it.
At which point we wouldn't let out a contract. We would just, essentially create a list of vendors. We can certainly look to that, type of solution. I believe it's done in other communities in a similar fashion for, let's say, water main breaks in general. They rank contractors and alternate between contractors.
Okay. So next week, we have to put this on the agenda to ask for board approval to go back out.
That would be my thought, unless trustees got...
I just had a question. Which other vendors did you talk to that said that was the issue?
I'll have to get to a list of them, but there's, I've got them on my desk. One of the first ones I talked to was Roy Erickson, but the other vendors that did pick up bids, I contacted them. They didn't even submit, bids, but, there was a couple of them. I don't have their names with me right now, but I will get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? Okay, thanks. License Committee, Trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of a list of licenses dated May 28th, 2018 through June 7th, 2018. That's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you. The Economic Development Committee, Trustee Pierce.
I have a presentation of the May 2018 monthly activity report, and I've got Chris Mannheim here tonight to give us a quick report on the Pulaski TIF.
Good evening, and thank you, Roger, for shortening my report by about 5 minutes. That's very good about the results of the permits are finally coming through. We've been talking about that for a while. Just a quick update, referring to the report that you did receive in your packets, so I won't go through every detail. But just some of the highlights. Affiliated Management, which has an RDA, they were already proceeding on renovating the shopping center over at 12201 and 12217 South Pulaski. We've been working with Huber Holdings, and the primary owner of that is Health on Earth Wellness Center, and that's at 119 South Pulaski for a chiropractic office. They're going to be getting architectural plans in this week, we understand. Roger and I have been keeping up with them. Howard Chernowski Strip Center, Strips Mall at 115-1527 South Pulaski. It's getting a new roof right now, and he's also doing some additional engineering for parking because of a new retail establishment, which I can't talk about right now.
Right.
Then we've been working with the owner of the building where Official Cuts is located on 115-16 South Pulaski. And it's getting a new sprinkler system. That's been approved. The permits have been issued, Roger, right, this past week. And we've been working with him developing his facade improvement plan. He talked to me earlier this day, and he plans to, he would like to do a presentation in 2 weeks at the next, on the June 25th meeting. Roger Hopkins will probably be here that time. I will be out of town. We're also moving ahead. Dr. Matthews and Studio K have inquired about doing a facade improvement, as well as Studio K has an agreement now to sell its parking lot to the new owners of Firewater Barbecue, so that's proceeding. Firewater is still working on its financing, though. So Roger Hopkins has been keeping the thumb screws on, so to speak, to help them get that done.
Well, we had a positive email on that, so it's not,
that's
we're not
correct.
just fishing, it's working.
Yeah, so that's not a surprise. You're well aware of all of that.
Right.
And the emails. There's new listings, as you may have noticed, for Demon Dogs and the old Dunkin' Donuts and Strip Mall, and we've been in touch with their brokers, and we're following through with them. And we've been also keeping up with, of course, you know all about the car wash and some of the other properties there. We have those also being marketed actively on Lois, and those are also sites that we're actively marketing with the real estate community as future sites. And we've also been keeping up with Chicago Southland's EDC on its updates on what new Cook County initiatives are on some of its economic development programs. And then the rest of it is just the usual of staying in touch with other businesses that are making inquiries and the like.
Okay.
So that's it. Any questions?
No.
Concerns?
Kent, how much money is left in the Pulaski TIF fund?
I don't have that pulled up. I don't have that pulled up in front of me, but I'll tell you what, if you bring it back up under old business, I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
And with that number minus the water main, please.
Yeah. And I haven't, I mean, I'll give you what I updated last time. I haven't updated it more recently, so we may have to go through a couple of the projects.
So, Chris, you named a lot of businesses there that we're not under any RDAs or anything with. I mean, they all realize that they're late to the game and the money's running out, right?
Yep, that's correct. And some of those businesses we've been working with, well, for a couple of years. But something else that I could probably mention too, that you may not be aware of. As you know, the state of Illinois has closed most of the small business development centers and the business assistance services that they have, which means that the business owners have to go to the SBA in Chicago or visit with SCORE or whatever, but they don't have the kind of technical assistance they used to have. There's places that can get that, so we find ourselves too, and of course I ran a small business development center for many years and used to package SBA 7A loans, and so we find ourselves too spending a lot of time with them, almost all of them, with the exception of the real professional developers, trying to figure out how to improve their businesses and how to expand. So there's a lot more than just coming for a facade. There's a lot of other assistance that all these businesses need beyond just coming looking for money. And one other thing, too, this came up in a conversation before the meeting tonight. Again, any of the RDAs, those are all reimbursements. They don't get any money until they complete the project and it's passed inspection. So they have to be in full compliance with that RDA. So just in case anybody's wondering, no one's walking off with any checks.
I actually have it pulled up. Can you?
What?
In 2 or 3 seconds, I think we can get.
What they're talking about, too, folks, just very quickly, he was using a lot of terminology, but we're using some TIF money to help stimulate and more business along Pulaski Road right now. So what's going to happen is that there is TIF eligible costs that are being done with the village. It's kind of a shared, like a 50-50 split per se. The village is in for 50% of, let's say, eligible costs to improve businesses, and we get that money back in the way of either sales taxes or maybe property taxes or whatever. So right now, what he was saying, he was using company names, but like the strip mall, like where Pappas Restaurant's at on Pulaski, that's getting a whole new facade. All those blue awnings are coming down and so forth. That's going to be an all-new brick facade that you see, and they're actually looking at new signage and whatnot. Again, it's a new parking lot, and those are TIF eligible costs to stimulate more business in that area. As you move down Pulaski, the professional building that's been abandoned for years next door to Checkers Restaurant there, That's getting a whole new look to it, too. That the whole thing's being redone to a professional office for chiropractors and whatnot are going into that building. So that they're presenting all of their construction plans to us right now. They've already been approved for a cost. And then the strip mall down where Nancy's Pizza's at, he actually qualifies for the replacement of the roof on that whole strip mall then, too. So, again, we'll recoup all those monies and so forth then, too, through either property tax or sales taxes, depending on what type of business people have. But the board has approved all these actions along the Pulaski to help stimulate and make more great business along the community, stimulate more new business on that street. Good.
We're making money from sales tax or property tax.
That's our big thing, is we try to, and then the last thing, too, we're really looking forward, if you haven't heard, is the new restaurant, the Firewater Barbecue and Brew, that's going to be built where they used to sell Christmas trees. He's going to put up a 6,000 square foot building. Half of that's 3,000 square feet is going to be a restaurant. We've seen the plans. It's going to have indoor-outdoor fireplace on the place. You have great food. This will be his third store. He's got one in Crest Hill and another one in Lombard, too. So this will be a great venture. The other 3,000 square feet will be 3 parcels of retail sales then, too. And he's responsible for bringing in people to lease those properties as well then, too. So this would be great for the community as soon as that takes off. He's just securing some financing right now, that's all. And again, the board helped make that action happen. Go ahead, Ken.
I have an answer for Trustee Juarez. With Chris's help, I've updated something that was done at the end of February with the RDAs that we have and the estimates on the demolitions that we know we have to do, and it looks like there's $257,000 left.
So we have $250,000 left in that fund right now.
That is correct. Now, we will be getting some money coming in as it's $50,000 a year in additional revenues if the firewater, until the firewater comes in. Maybe another 50 at that point. So there is more money coming in, but yes, the number is going down.
But basically, in last year, we've committed over $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, right. We've gone down quite a bit mainly with the water main replacement, but a number of RDAs going out. So it's
and property acquisition.
And property acquisition as well. And my estimates on the demolition were done 4 or 5 months ago. So if there's more newer estimates, it's a very good approximation, I should say.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else on economic development?
No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. No.
Okay.
That's all.
Anything else? Okay. Planning and zoning, Trustee Zelinski.
No report tonight, Mayor.
All right.
Mayor, Mayor Roger, under planning and zoning. 6 months or so ago, we gave a business not a waiver, but an extension of time to pave the backside of their lot. That time is up, or very close.
Yeah.
Where are we at with that?
If you're talking about Yafo, I did have a conversation with him. His license was issued the 23rd of October, which brings him to July 23rd. He is going forward with doing that. He is paving more than a half acre of land, so he does have to get MWRD's approval. I believe that what's been discussed is he is working through that now to gain a MWRD permit, and then he will have the contractor, once he has his drainage settled with MWRD, then he would take care of that.
So the reality is it's not going to be done in 5 weeks.
I don't foresee that happening. He may be coming back to the board and asking for an extension, knowing that he is working with MWRD.
All right. Was he working with them all along? I mean, we gave him the time.
He has.
So maybe going forward, we should realize that we didn't give enough time?
We didn't give enough time.
I can attest MWRD in getting approvals from them, whether you're a small business or you're actually the worldwide headquarters of a corporation here in town. It's going to take a long time. Griffith had to wait forever just to get some plans approved from MWRD, and I dealt with that firsthand. So I know, I mean, it is a reality of dealing with them.
The business that is next door was notified previous when I had the same conversation with them. I had a conversation with them today. he fully understands that he's going to have to do some work back on his property at 125.
Okay. Is there just any chance that maybe, the mayor, you or the mayor can discuss that with the property owners that butt up against that? Because, I mean, this was something that we sold to that whole group of property owners.
I have had numerous conversations
Okay.
with both, including today.
Okay, 10-4.
And maybe once we get some any kind of documentation, we'd be happy to share with the neighborhood and stuff too. Not a problem. All right. Planning and zoning. No report. Village properties. Trustee McGlohan.
I have no report at this time.
All right. Insurance committee. Trustee McGrail.
We have a discussion of the property insurance for a coverage period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. It'll be presented by Mr. Les Peach and Dave Bresnahan.
Thank you very much. I'm Dave Bresnahan from the Horton Group. I believe you all have the packets in front of you. Just kind of carry you through the proposal and the renewal marketing that was done. If you open the booklets to page 3, you can see last year the property premiums totaled $68,104. This year for the renewal, there is an increase up to $80,910. Two main reasons for the increase. During this policy term, the village incurred a $280,000 property loss, which was paid by the carrier. That was driving a large percentage of the increase. The secondary factor is when you look at property insurance in general, you have your insurance carrier, which in this case is Lexington, an AIG company, but then all of the companies also reinsure to reinsurance companies, Swiss Re, Gen Re, on a global basis. So the 2017 year from a property standpoint was a very bad year globally due to catastrophic losses, a lot of hurricane activity in Florida and Texas. It would be logical for you to say, what does Florida and Texas have to do with Alsip, Illinois? It's because of those reinsurance rates. 2017 had the highest paid reinsurance losses in the history of insurance, over $300 billion globally. So you have kind of those two factors, the individual loss that the village sustained, and then the reinsurance increases, which pushed the total increase this year of about $12,000. We did look for options to reduce that increase. Currently, you have a $10,000 deductible on the property side. We asked them to quote a $25,000 deductible. Doing so only saves the village about $3,100. That's a 5-year payback in terms of how long you'd have to go loss-free to fund for one additional deductible. Certainly, that's the trustees' decision. If you are interested in that program, as far as our recommendation would probably be that it's not worth it. If you have to go 5 years just to break even on it, typically your risk reward is not where we would like to see it. Other options in order for consideration tonight, you have about $97 million of total property insurance, and that's insured on a blanket basis. You only have $5 million of earthquake coverage. Earthquake is generally not something that people in Northern Illinois worry about a whole lot, but we do sit on a couple different fault lines, and there has been some tremors in recent years, so we just wanted to make the board aware of that. There's additional pricing in there if you wanted to increase the earthquake coverage up to a $10 million limit. That would add about $10,000 of additional cost. Moving up to a $25 million limit adds $18,000. So it's certainly a very significant premium charge, but something that our job as the broker is to kind of make you aware of where your program sits and what it would cost to enhance the program. Page 4 kind of goes through the marketing that we did on the property insurance. We had a couple of the larger players that did not like the senior housing exposure, so they declined for that reason. You see other carriers there that either said they could not compete with the current pricing or sublimits. The way it works when you market a insurance renewal is we need to let the other carriers, the Travelers, Liberty Mutuals, those folks, they don't want to waste their time quoting if they have no chance, so they will always ask, well, what's the current program priced at? And then the second question they ask is, okay, did they send a notice of increase of 30% or more? That's state law. If you're going to do that, you need to notify. In this case, the insurance carrier did not, so we let all those carriers know that the pricing was not going to go up 30% or more, and several of them backed out at that time.
So Dan, we've got earthquake insurance now, right?
You do $5 million.
$5 million. But it would cost us an extra $10,000 a year if we increase it to $10 million.
Correct.
Have we ever exercised that insurance?
You have not. No, it's catastrophic insurance.
I get it. I got to ask the question. That's all, you know?
No, there's not been.
It's tough because, frankly, 10,000 was a lot more than I was expecting. I met with both these gentlemen, and that was the one thing that was sort of still out there. And I was hoping that number would be a lot lower because, again, we are on a fault line. Should something happen, if all of our buildings come down, $5 million doesn't get us back where we need to go. But $10,000 is a lot on the premium when we haven't had a major earthquake. So it's
and that's on top of the $12,000 increase we're looking at right now. Because right now this is $80,000 a year just for property insurance.
Correct.
So we'll go to $90,000 a year for property insurance.
It's tough.
It only gets us up to $10 million. It's not even going up to the $25 million.
You have a lot of buildings. I guess we wouldn't be the only one in trouble, but we'd be in trouble.
In terms of the other marketing, as you see at the bottom of that page, there is monoline cyber pollution quotes. One of the nice things about the APIP program that you're currently with is they are your property carrier, but they also include cyber liability, and they also include pollution liability, which is very rare. So the reason we got monoline indications for that was in the event that one of the other carriers we went to came forward with a solid property program, we would have needed to purchase that cyber and that pollution to make sure there was no reduction in coverage. So that's why you see those premium figures there. As far as the rest of the pages in the booklet, the coverages they're the same as they were last year from a terms and conditions standpoint. As I mentioned, you've got 84, if you look on page 5, $84 million of blanket building coverage, $8 million of contents, and you can kind of read on through there. Your total insured values of $97 million with a $10,000 all-risk deductible. Flood and quake always carries a higher deductible. That's standard throughout the industry. One of the other nice things about the program that you're with APIP, if you look on page 6, the sublimits that they throw in, APIP is a large municipal pool. They have over 8,000 members nationwide. And what that buying power does is it just gives you some nice enhancements on the sublimits, things that may not be top of mind, but a couple that I would draw your attention to. There's $25 million of additional coverage for course of construction and additions. Those are savings directly to you if you were adding or if you were renovating a current structure or adding on to a current structure. You would have to go out and purchase builder's risk coverage at an additional premium. They build that right in, so you're never going to incur those costs. They also throw in $50 million of increased cost of construction. That's if you have an older building and you have to essentially demolish it and rebuild it up to new codes. So say you have to put in new sprinklers or a different type of construction, that amount pays above and beyond what you had listed on your statement of values. If you were with a traditional program, you'd see about $1 million of building ordinance or law. In this program, you see $50 million. So it's a very strong program from a coverage standpoint.
Is this in line with what our fixed assets show, Ken?
You mean, are we covering what we need to be covering?
Yes.
That's a really good question. And the reason I say that is because our fixed assets were so out of date, and we for the first time in like 15 years, we did a physical inventory of fixed assets in the last year, the FY17 audit, so about a year ago. When we did give it to Horton and said, is this in line? The answer was yes, but I guess we could look at that a little bit harder just to make sure.
You've had an appraisal done, and actually at one point the village had an appraisal done at replacement cost on all of the buildings, and you had that done for about 30 years in a row. And then just a couple years ago, there was a discussion about we're going to stop doing that. but we were using inflationary factors, still roughly 2% a year.
Right, and we-
So the insurance carrier, actually, Pepe, knew that the appraisal company that you were using, they were very comfortable with the values when we went to them last year, because they were pretty confident at that point because they knew the quality of the work that company does. So I just wanted to jump up here and say that we're pretty sure that those numbers are right on.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, thank you for bailing me out. I was trying to remember, and I appreciate that.
Other important highlights, if you flip to page 10, there, that is your cyber liability coverage, and then the pollution coverage is on page 13. Cyber liability is really, it's the most rapidly growing area of insurance claims. Very easily to incur a cyber loss. All you need to have is somebody send you a malicious email and have one of your employees accidentally click on it. It actually happened at our agency not too long ago. One of our employees on their cell phone thought it was legitimate and clicked on it and sent the virus out to everyone in his contact list and created a large problem. So cyber liability is a very rapidly growing area, so we're very pleased with the coverage that you have in place there.
So David, back on page 5, so our overall insurance, is this right, $97,000? 97 million, correct. That's your total insured value. That's our insured value. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say, right?
Yep.
Okay. For the $80,000 that we're looking at.
Correct.
Right. Trustees, any questions? All right, we'll have to, David, we'll have to put this on the agenda next week for approval then, too.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
The only thing that I think needed to be answered is just to whether or not the earthquake insurance. Again, it was something I was going to recommend until I saw that price, but that's really, it's a policy decision. Should something happen, you'd want the coverage to be able to rebuild the buildings, and $5 million doesn't get you there. However, having said that, $10,000 was a lot more money than I was expecting it to be. So I think you need some sort of direction for when you do put it on the board as to whether or not that's something you would want.
Probably have underground storage tanks.
I'm not sure. The underground storage tanks, I'm not. Do we have?
I thought we took those out, didn't we?
No, they were above ground. I don't think we have any. Yeah.
Right.
Well, unless they're referring to the water. No.
Underground storage tanks coverage included with a self-insured retention of $750,000. Note, it does not meet financial assurance requirements.
This program has 8,300 members in it, and some of those members have underground storage tanks. And so what they've done is they try to include the coverage. Everybody has the basic program, and so if you did have one, or if you do get one in the future, you've got the coverage for it. Now it's excess of $750,000, which is what the required is for financial requirement, but then they'll give you the coverage on top of that. Does that make sense?
It makes some sense, but also at the same point in time, if it's a program that's generated for a lot of people, but it has something that isn't specific for us, are we paying in addition fees for something that we don't have?
We can actually get the cost broken out for you for the pollution. It's very inexpensive. It's been very, very cheap, so you can make the decision if you want it or not. But it's been pretty much of a throw-in the last 4 or 5 years. But we'll get that for you.
So the
I've just comment, but a lot of, like, for example, the $50 million and the extra expense coverage and some of the other sublimits, obviously you don't need $50 million, but you may need $3 or $4 million. But they have some very large members there that do require that. That's why they just give everybody the same sublimit.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thank you.
So, Kent, those will be the only two things that the board has to decide if they want the earthquake.
Yeah, the earthquake
coverage.
Insurance is pretty much there. I was hoping, and it didn't come through, I think the deductible is really low, and I was hoping by moving it to higher, the premium would move materially. It didn't. So even though it's a low deductible, I agree with them, 5 years, it's not a good enough discount to mess with. If sometime in the future they give us a proper discount for raising the deductible, we can be talking about that, but that one doesn't make any sense.
Right, so is that the
So
feeling of the board?
it just comes down to did you want the optional additional earthquake insurance? But again, it's expensive, so that's, yeah.
So,
Okay.
do you want to take the consensus on that?
Pardon me?
Do we want to get the board's,
I think it'd be best to put it on the agenda as an A or a B, let the board, because I don't know that everybody,
It's up to you guys whether you want to do consensus now or put it as two things.
Do it now if you
I
want.
say stay where we are.
I agree.
It seems a lot of money for the improbable. I mean, we can insure ourselves for all sorts of occasions and spend a lot of money for insurance and hopefully we'll never make use of, but I mean, we just got this and it's a lot of fine print. I'd like to be able to digest it a bit as well.
As far as the
Then we can put
deductible,
it
I'd leave
A
it
and B.
alone.
pardon me?
The
Then we'll do A and
deductible,
B.
but on the,
Yeah, you're gonna have
on the
the
earthquake
earthquake.
insurance, it sounds like
You want to go to 5 to 10 million for $10,000 more. You want to go to 25 million for 20,000 more.
I think we should go with an
Or do
A
you
and
wanna
a
pick
B
one
next
of the
week,
three?
We'll just,
which, we can decide which one to pursue next week. All right, we have a couple more items to cover here then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ordinance legislation, Trustee Pierce?
It was requested that I put this on a discussion regarding the approval of an ordinance allowing the Village of Alsip to take action against property owners with nuisance greenery such as grass and weeds.
So what I did, Trustee, I asked Trustee Pierce if we could take a look at this evening. Briefly, this has become a real problem in the village. I've been here for a year now, and obviously our building department's really been inundated with many homeowners, whether they might be living there or they might not be, but we actually don't have anything on our books. They used to go out and cut folks' grass. If grass has to be over 8 inches tall in order to qualify or to be in violation of our municipal code. So there's a $100 citation minimum that's cited for offenders. And obviously, the health person takes pictures of the property in question. It's all time-stamped and so forth, so they can discuss this with a hearing officer if they choose to do so. And that is an appearance case yet, too, where they have to come in to address that. Problem is, we don't have an ordinance that actually addresses this in print. What they did years ago, Roger, if I understood this correctly, they would cut the grass and send a bill to the homeowner, and it may or may not be resolved. Hopefully it was, but we don't, and you can't attach those to people's water bills and stuff just willy-nilly. So you actually have to have an ordinance in place, and that's why I was presenting tonight to the board to take a look at. And with the help of our legal staff, they oversee 6 different municipalities, and they said this is a common thing that's happening in a lot of towns right now. So the way I've got this written is this is what's known as a notice of public nuisance pursuant to Section 15.25-1 of the Village of Alsip Municipal Code. This is, more or less, this is a template, trustees and ladies and gentlemen. If we can certainly tweak this is just my recommendation, but you are hereby notified pursuant to Sections 15.25-1 of the Village of Alsip Municipal Code and Section 1120-7 of the Illinois Municipal Code that you or your tenant have allowed the growth of weeds or neglected grass to remain on the above described property, because we have a section where we fill in the address, so as to be considered a nuisance greenery. In the event such weeds or neglected grass is or are not removed within 7 days of the receipt of this notice, the Village of Alsip will cause the removal of said weeds or neglected grass to abate the nuisance. You are further notified that in the event the Village of Alsip causes such removal, that the Village of Alsip will submit an invoice to the responsible party for payment of services rendered. Otherwise, the village will file a lien against the subject property for the cost of such removal, plus costs incurred by the village to prepare and record the lien notice. Each lien may be enforced by proceeding to foreclose, as in the case of mortgages or mechanic liens, including transfer stamps. The Village of Alsip assumes no liability for the enforcement of this ordinance, in other words, on the property. and I can tweak that. And what I put in here were costs associated with a tall grass nuisance ordinance is a $100 minimum municipal violation. There's a $50 administrative fee, a $150 fee to cut and clean up the grass over 8 inches tall in compliance with the nuisance ordinance, a $100 fee to prepare a lien, and $50 to record the lien. All of those would be reflected, on a case-by-case basis, but I'm just trying to give an overview of what we're looking at here. We just don't have an ordinance in place that describes this, and that's why I'm bringing it to the board's attention to see if the board wants to create this ordinance, and we can approve it next week if you wish, and we can certainly tweak it if you wish.
So just understand the process. I'm fine with this, but it doesn't supersede the Health and Pollution's first action of issuing a ticket, right?
No. Hey, Roger, can you do me a favor? Excuse me, Roger, can you step to the mic, please, just so everybody can hear what you're saying? This is our Building Commissioner, Roger Early.
This would actually go along with that. It would actually benefit so that if it's not being done, we could actually hire a contractor to go out there and cut it and then put the fees onto lien the property so that we can recoup our costs from the contractors that we're using.
So you issue the ticket first.
We're going to issue. We're going to go out there, ask them to take care of it. If they don't take care of it, we're going to issue the ticket. If it's not taken care of within 7 days, we're going to give them this piece of paper that says, "Hey, now you've been notified. You have 7 days, or we're going to cut it for you, and then we're going to send you the bill."
Okay.
I really feel we needed something like this on the books. I mean, many of the neighbors have been calling. I'm doing our best. I physically, how about it? I mean, I felt silly doing it, but it was necessary. I had Public Works throw a couple lawnmowers in the back of my truck. I went to people's homes. I said, if you don't cut this, I will. And people got out of their home, and one guy took care of it, one guy didn't. So, I mean, that's always what's going to happen and stuff then, too. It's a process that shouldn't have to happen, but I really feel for the neighbors, and we're trying to do the right thing here and stuff then, too. So, we needed something like this in place, and we didn't have this tool, and which is why I'm asking the board to approve this.
I appreciate the idea of the ordinance with regards to giving us the lawful authority to go onto their property to remedy the nuisance. It just $150 to mow a lawn, it seems to be...
On top of a $100 ticket.
Well, on top of a $100 ticket and a $50 administrative fee, now $150 to do that, they're into it for $300, and then if they don't pay the $300, then we're going to go ahead and incur yet another $150 to file the lien against their property. So for a occurrence, $450.
But it is only the 150 if the grass is over 8 inches tall. I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to be out cutting grass that's over 8 inches tall.
And then wait another 2 weeks to cut and clean up. Well, if you have a sizable corner lot or anything, $150, it'd be worth it to have them clean it up.
We just did one at 117th Street, and it was probably 1.5 feet tall. And we had a contractor spend a couple hours out there with 3 guys, and he was charging basically $35 to $40 an hour per man on the job. And they had to cut the grass almost 4 times to get it looking halfway decent. And the problem with tall grass, everybody knows, you attract rodents, you attract everything in there. It's a health issue and stuff. We got to get rid of it.
I agree. It looks terrible. It's a nuisance, and certainly all those aspects. It's just $150. I get if somebody's got a big lot, maybe theirs costs a little bit more. I mean, is this something that we've got from our landscape contractor that says, regardless of the lot size, some people have small lots?
If it's over 8 inches, they're going to have to cut it 3 to 4 times. If it exceeds that 8 inches or 10 inches, 12 inches, like the one that the mayor was talking about, it was over 18 inches tall. He was there hours cutting.
I mean, these guys are landscapers. I get it. Me going with my Craftsman mower, probably going to have some time. But I've seen these advertisements for these things that go out there and chop this stuff down. And my assumption is, I'm not a landscaper, that they would have the tools for it.
You know what, a lot of it's the cleanup, seriously. It's like that mess that the state gives us. And for what it's worth, folks, I'm fighting with those guys all the time, too. I think they do a terrible job cutting our grass. up on Cicero and 127th Street. But, you know, Mike Freder's done his best. He and I both have attacked the state for the same thing that they do. They cut that, and it looks worse. You know, it looked bad enough before they cut it, and then it looks worse after. But yeah, we're just kind of using. We can compare some numbers. Becky Smith got us a couple numbers today from a couple local contractors, and I use this number from the contractor who just helped us with their recent home, and we can certainly crunch numbers, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to be within $50 and make, you know, of whatever it is. It's going to go by the hour, and not too many guys are going to cut that grass. I mean, typically they charge $40 for a good-looking house. You know, they're going to spend 3 times the amount of time, you know, 3 times the amount of $40. So you might be at 125, and I'm at 150 right now. Yeah.
We're not doing a job of, you know, manicuring lawns for people. So I see this as more of a deterrent, and if people actually just get out there and take care of their stuff the way they're supposed to,
and there are
none of these fees will even be incurred by anybody. So
there are some communities too, trustee, like Matson, for example. I heard they're as high as like $700. I'm like, we're not trying to hurt people. We're trying to help them, and we're trying to do what we can, but there has to be a fee associated with it. That's all. So. And much like I was trying to do, I figured an hour, you know, of course I was crazy to think I could do that in an hour. Those guys are out there for 3 hours with 3 guys with professional equipment. But I feel for everybody, and our phones are ringing off the hook here and stuff then too. So we're doing what we can to try and come up with a solution. So, yeah, unless I hear different this week from everybody, I'll put this out next week. I'll have legal take a look at this, make sure the language is correct and so forth, and I'll put it to the board for approval next week and stuff then too.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll finish up here. A couple more issues, items rather real quick. Trustee, anything else on ordinance legislation?
That's all, Mayor.
Thanks for your help on that. IT, Trustee Dalzell.
No report, Mayor.
Mayor, could I ask a question on IT?
Sure.
Especially because we have Deputy Chief Ricker here tonight. And if I could ask you to address the board here. I heard an obscene number this past week that maybe you can address that. I know we've got a 20-plus-year-old phone system, but I heard that we pay almost $11,000 a year in a contract fee just for maintenance on this system.
That is correct. After doing some research, I've been working with our finance department and our other department heads, trying to get through, you know, all of our telecommunication services here in the village, and we are currently paying roughly $917 a month in maintenance for a 20-year-old phone system. It's been under contract for, you know, since it was put in. You know, as anybody knows, as things get older, they get more expensive to maintain, and that contract price has just kept going up. So I've been working with a number of companies, getting some quotes on new phone systems and such. But also we found during the course of all this auditing about an additional $3,000 a month in services that I was able to cancel that we'd been paying to AT&T for. AT&T and another company for stuff that probably should have been canceled years ago.
So $3,000 a year?
$3,000 a month.
So $36,000 a year.
Correct. So I've been working very closely with all the different department heads and kind of auditing everything that we've got there, getting rid of things that we know we don't need. We did this several years ago, but with this conversion over to Oak Lawn, it opened up some additional accounts that we hadn't looked at very closely in the past, and we found some things that we could do. So just in the last month or so, I've sent disconnect orders into AT&T and another First Communications, totaling close to $3,000 a month in fees. So one of the things that we're looking at now is with the quoting on the phone systems, we could be looking at a new phone system for, you know, roughly what we're paying now in maintenance, and that includes 5 years of service. So I'm working on getting all that stuff together, and as I get closer, I will definitely reach out to our IT committee to, you know, get some solid numbers together. I'm just waiting on a few other things from AT&T right now on additional services and consolidation of things that we currently are using.
And we have all the infrastructure already in place to flip to something new and modern?
Well, that's what we're waiting on, some of that information right now. So
And that'd be a hybrid system, correct?
No, this will be a fully IP system.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, the cost savings that we looked at originally with the hybrid system, that's gone away, and the cost of the hybrid systems have gone up, and the price of the IP phone systems has come
So
down.
it's a VoIP system.
Yep.
Voice over Internet Protocol. If you recall, that was something that we talked about quite a bit in last year's budget when we were doing the 5-year budgeting, and it was for this year. We talked again when we went through the budget of it being in this year's budget. It's obviously the budget's not passed, nothing is there, but it was in the line items that were presented for this year's budget to do that project. And I will say, it really is held together with tape. Today, the display on my phone just went out, so a good portion of it, part of it's blocked out. So
I have a spare phone for you.
So this $47,000 in newfound money, it should pay for it easily, right?
It's and my number is old, so I think DC Ricker can help give a more updated number. But the number we budgeted for was $90,000.
Yeah, I've gotten quotes on new phone systems that ranged anywhere from about $49,000 all the way up to $150,000. So,
two-year payback.
Yeah, it's pretty wide ranging.
No, two-year payback.
Ever since we've been doing the budget stuff, I've been asking for this information. I've been trying to get these things updated. I've been trying to get people in place here to sit there and have this discussion. And quite frankly, you hear from a little bird about something, it's never brought to my attention at all.
I apologize for that. I mean, it was just a stunning number, I think, that was just uncovered, and I heard, I think we put off putting the phone system in, and now I'm just excited because it looks like we found the money.
We haven't put it off. We've never been approached with what to sit there and to do, and I've been asking for a meeting to sit there and discuss that very object, assuming that there was going to be some savings here. And then...
Yeah, and I don't know what happened. I know there was originally both Brian and Bob were supposed to have a meeting. I can't remember what happened with that and why we didn't do that, but it definitely does need to happen.
The last I remember, we were scheduled for a meeting, it got canceled, and we never had a rescheduled meeting for that.
But we do have that as a line item in this budget.
It is, but you don't just spend that. I mean, it does. Trustee Dizelle is right. It's got to be fleshed out as exactly what it is, how we're getting to that point.
Absolutely. We definitely have to do our due diligence on this for sure.
Right.
And he had requested a meeting. I think it is a separate meeting. It's its own.
And I'm sure we brought that up a few months ago when we first had budget talks. So I mean, let's pursue that.
It
one more
was,
time,
and I think he's right. I think there was a meeting scheduled and it got canceled. So.
And then with this dispatch consolidation, things have been absolutely nutty. So things are finally settling down, and we're hammering out some of the other issues that we're starting to find. So now is a good time to start having these conversations again, I think.
Okay. Anything else, Trustee? Rick? Okay.
Like I'd know.
Yeah, I know. All right, Human Resources, Trustee McGrill.
I have no report.
Health and Pollution, Trustee Pierce.
No report, Mayor.
Traffic Safety, Trustee Dalzell.
Other than bringing up what was brought to the attention tonight, nothing.
All right, thank you. Any presentations, petitions, or communications? Any unfinished business? Under new business, trustees, I apologize, I didn't have this on the agenda, but I would like to have Sean O'Connell address the board regarding a 6B application. Sean? Sean was here a couple weeks ago and came on our legal staff didn't have this quite, didn't look it over yet, but they have now, which is why Sean's here this evening.
I'm here on behalf of Transwestern, which owns the building at 5100 West 123rd Street. We are requesting a 6B renewal from the village. We have a ongoing negotiation right now with one of the tenants in the building, which would be Roosevelt Paper, and they have about I believe 70 jobs, as is stated in the application, and that renewal is contingent upon the incentive being renewed. And Keystone Automotive is in the building as well, with about 170 employees, and their lease expires in 2019. So I imagine that also will be the incentive will play a heavy part in their renewal as well. So here to answer any questions that the trustees may have.
Sean, have we done a renewal for them prior, or is this the first time they're asking for a renewal?
This would be the first.
First time?
Yes.
So they've had a 6B that ran its course of 12 years, obviously?
Right. This is the 10th year, which the program from the county lasts 12, meaning that the incentive is 10% of the building's market value right now, but next year it'll be 15, then in the 12th it'll be 20, and then in the 13th it's restored to 25, which is the standard assessment percentage for a building.
Okay.
And I should mention that Transwestern, as part of the savings with the renewal, there is about $1.25 million of work that needs to go into the building's roof. So they intend to use the savings from the incentive towards it will go back into the building.
And again, trustees, I will get. Did you already get Sean's packet? Okay. Sean, I will make sure they get their packet tomorrow for everything that you submitted to us. Obviously, you still, as far as meeting county criteria, any adjustment to jobs or anything like that, or are you improving any additional properties?
Well, they won't be improving any. They will be improving the property that they own.
Right.
And then one of the companies, Roosevelt Paper, will probably add about 10 to 15 jobs over the next few years. But Keystone Automotive hasn't been able to project what the job growth will be.
Right. So, and one more time, the companies that affected by this again are, can you list those?
Keystone Automotive and Roosevelt Paper. Together, it's about 240 jobs.
About 240 employees there now?
Yes.
Okay. And Roosevelt Paper. 5100 West.
123rd.
23rd. Trustees, I'll get you Sean's packet tomorrow, just so you can see more of an overview of what they're doing. And certainly, if you have any questions, please contact Sean or myself or anybody then too. They can answer these questions for you then too at the same time. Sean, I know I know you spoke with our attorney Vince Kankar.
I have not spoken with Vince.
Oh, was it just emails going back and forth?
Just emails.
That's what I'm saying. Right. In other words, you've communicated with Vince. Okay, no problem. So we can always defer to Mr. Kankar too, because he's looked at this application as well then too.
So this will be on the agenda next week?
Next week, we'll put it on the agenda for approval, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Sean, thanks for your patience, too. I know you were in a couple weeks ago, but I didn't have approval from the attorney to take action on that yet, and certainly the board will get all the paperwork tomorrow on this then, too.
Thank you.
Any other new business, trustees?
Just a point of order, just to note for the record that Trustee Juarez departed the meeting at 9 p.m.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Pardon? Second. Oh. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening, folks, and your patience. Had a lot of business tonight. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned at 9:23 p.m.
Okay.